One. All right, we are now recording. So hello, everybody. Welcome to our monthly Jupyter community call. This is our third month doing this, so we're still iterating on this and learning from this. But thank you, everyone who's come. And these have been a lot of fun these last couple of months, so we hope to continue them going. I want to say one of the things that we're learning from this process is just how to effectively communicate these and get these out to the community, and also to get people interested in giving talks. So they really are an open format, and we've been very lucky that so far people have just freely signed up, and we've been able to fill these time slots. And I hope that continues to happen. If that doesn't, we will, if it ends up being just one person signing up for that month, we'll continue to have it that month. If no one signs up, we may get on the call and say, hey, this month we're gonna, maybe make this an open chat for a few minutes, but for the most part, we'll wait till the next month. So we're gonna let these just kind of organically evolve. If everyone's cool with that. Really, it's a good chance just to connect once a month and see people's faces too. And in those scenarios, maybe we can even open up the floor for Q&A with core developers if community members are interested in that. So with that, I'll say hello. I am Zach Saylor. I'm a core developer for Project Jupyter at the Cal Poly wing of Project Jupyter. For our agenda today, we will, if the speakers can just remember to just say your name, say your affiliation if you'd like before you start. And then usually we set these up to be about 10 minutes for each person to present whatever they want to talk about. And in that time, they can just go through it, share a screen, show a demo, give us whatever updates they have, and then we'll open up the floor for a few minutes of questions. And we'll time box those questions to 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next speaker. If I cut you off, it's nothing personal. We just try to stay on task. So like I said, at the end of the call, if there ends up being time, we'll kind of free up the floor, maybe even stop the recording and just let people converse freely across the call. So this is an open place to chat. Again, anyone is welcome to sit in and listen and participate however they like. So thank you all for coming. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and we break our call into 2 sections. A short report section. This is just people giving shout outs about things they want to talk about. And really no conversation happens here. This is just to give announcements for the most part. And then we'll move into our main agenda items, and that's kind of free to speak time. So we'll just go through our short reports. So the first one, I think this comes from Kirsty and the Churring Way team. You guys want to give us a shout out here?
Yeah. So I'm going to bring this drawing up. We've had 2 book dash events for this project called the Churring Way, which is a book to make reproducible research too easy not to do, which is a hilarious thing to try and achieve. And we've had a group of people, one in Manchester a couple of weeks ago and one today. So there's some folks who are still beavering away at the back, collaboratively writing this book. It's a Jupyter book, and so we've been sort of hopefully getting some binder work in there and some live demos and kind of building it as you go along. It's all CC BY, so anyone is welcome to fork it, reuse it, remix it, but also contribute back in would be really amazing. So we've got these amazing pieces of art from Matt, who might still be in the camera shot, and we're just delighted, and thank you to all of the contributors who've been here today.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, guys. It looks wonderful in the background. Great. So that's it for our short reports. Unless anybody has anything they want to yell out really quick, I'll give you 30 seconds here, maybe 10 seconds.
What's a book dash?
I'm still muted. So a book sprint is where you get together for like 3 to 5 days to write a book, and a book dash is shorter than a sprint. So it's just a 1-day event. We actually got together and did a networking and sort of dinner event yesterday. So we had some lightning talks. Sarah showed off some of her subversive cross-stitching. We showcased a few different things that people wanted to talk about last night and had dinner. And then from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., everybody just sort of sat in like a lot of quiet in the room, contributing chapters on. Sarah wrote one on a binder hub. We had contributions to our continuous integration to not have broken links in the book. We had chapters on singularity instead of Docker, on the ethics of uploading data and sharing data, and I'm not remembering all of them right now, but and provenance. And so it's just a little way of getting everyone together to sort of spew out the things that they know and get them into one centralized place.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and move into our main agenda, which I think is coming back to you there in the conference room. So this is feedbacks and reports from the research software reactor sprint.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Sarah. I'm at the Alan Turing Institute as well, and I'm also part of the mybind.org operator team. So last week I did a 3-day sprint that was jointly hosted by Imperial and Microsoft and involved a trip down to the reactor workspace in London, hosted by Microsoft, and we all got together and like hacked on some cloud-based projects. And what was really, really cool was the level of interest about Binder Hub in the room. Like we almost just had one huge Binder Hub hack, but eventually some people decided, no, maybe we should like branch out and have another project. So I decided to lead on a project that I tried to get started here at the Churring by myself, but didn't pick up a lot of momentum on. And that's a set of scripts that will auto-deploy a Binder Hub to Azure. So there's like a setup script to get all your command line interfaces on, and then a deploy script, and then a few info scripts, and then you can tear it down. So all those scripts are now working locally in a fork of a fork. And our next goal we're trying to reach is to get push button deployment. So much like a binder link in a README, there will be a deploy to Azure button on a README in a GitHub thing, and within a few minutes you'll have a fully working Binder Hub on Azure. And it was just really cool. I'm still riding all of the excitement and enthusiasm, and it was really nice to like lead a project and see loads of people contributing together. And one last thing, another outcome of the book dash today that I wanted to present. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the comic that the Binder team had made up of like the workflow of using Binder. And it always kind of annoyed me that like all of the really clever Docker stuff was in this tiny little Docker image in the bottom corner of the screen. So I asked our illustrator to just like document exactly what a Binder Hub is doing. So hopefully I'll get all of this in. So like up here we have GitHub with all of our repos, and then repo to Docker pulls one down. The Docker whale delivers it to the Jupyter hub that's floating on a cloud ocean. And then we have lots of people coming up on their little boats. So we've got like a little class of people. The Docker opens up, and they're all learning about the software. This guy's decided he really likes the software and is taking it off to his business. And we've got Kubernetes up here, which is the crane, managing all of the pods and the containers on the Jupyter hub. And I thought, like, I thought we really needed that to explain what the Binder Hub is. So yeah, that's my update.
Wow, thank you. That is so cool. Great work with the illustration too. That is
awesome. And I can't remember if we said that they'll all be CC BY. So once they're digitized, they'll be up in our repo and everyone can use them for whatever they want. Yeah.
That's awesome. Great. Does anybody have questions or anything they want to say? Sarah?
That is awesome.
Thank you.
I think we need more of that across the Jupyter ecosystem. I love that. Anybody else? Thank you guys for that update. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Really cool stuff. Really fun. All right. We'll go to our next thing on the agenda here. Luciano, are you on the call?
Hey, Zach. Yeah,
Hey.
I'm here.
Great. You're going to give us an update about the Jupyter Server Workshop.
Yeah, it's not gonna be so exciting with nice cartoons and stuff like the previous one, but let me try to talk a little bit. So we did a Jupyter Server design and roadmap workshop, which was sponsored by Bloomberg and hosted at IBM France on May 16 and 17. Some of the folks that participated, so like Sylvain, Thomas, you, Roland, Kevin, and myself. And we were talking about the Jupyter server, trying to discuss kind of like a functionality, directions, and trying to come up with at least a very high level roadmap. For those that are not aware of like what the Jupyter server is, so the goal of the Jupyter server is to decouple the common backend services from Jupyter Notebook server so that it can be used easily into different front ends. We are seeing a lot of like notebooks was the initial one, Jupyter Lab, Interact, widgets, Voila, and others that are basically using the notebook or using the backend functionality, but providing different UIs and user experience in general. So the idea is to start splitting the Jupyter server so that it can be used by all of this in a reasonable way. Also, how do we want to accomplish that? So the idea is that the Jupyter server starts providing extension points, and those UI, they become like front-end interactive applications, and excuse me, and the existing front ends will become the application extensions providing UI on top of Jupyter server. The Jupyter server will also continue to provide backend extensions. So where we can update existing handlers or customize the behavior of those, but also add the new handlers from the REST APIs that are being exposed by the server. At a high level roadmap, I think we were discussing kind of like two things. Phase one is we start introducing kind of like the Jupyter server and start splitting or integrating with the existing UI. So like, for example, Notebook and Lab will start becoming an app extension and using the server as kind of like the backend for the services that it needs. And then as a phase two, which then the split already happened, we were thinking on starting expanding some of the functionality. So Thomas had provided like a kernel provided PR, which provides a little bit more flexibility to integrating different kernel management on the back end. And we already did something like that in the enterprise gateway, where we have this notion of like process proxies to provide remote kernels, and all of that kind of like integrating and giving the Jupyter server also the ability to become kind of like kernel services in a more flexible way. So those were kind of the things that we discussed and very high level, the phases that we were thinking. I think the next step, I mean, Zach is already working on the PRs for the splitting. I have to provide a blog post with the summary, similar to what we are discussing, but a little bit in more details and with some illustrations to help folks understand a little bit more. And Socialize, we will start also like trying to come up with bi-weekly calls. Like some of the projects are doing weekly, we might start doing bi-weekly until we get a lot of like interactions, and then we move to weekly. But really get the community going and start working on the project and getting very active. That's sort of like high level. If you guys have any questions, yeah, just.
All right, thanks, Luciano.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Luciano?
So are we staying on Tornado?
I guess the
yes.
yeah, I guess the plan is still. I think so. What I want to make make people a little bit more comfortable is like we are not really trying to rewrite or come up with completely new infrastructure. We are basically separating what is already existent, and let's say on the notebook server, into its own project that handles the backend portion of it, and then that can much more quickly evolve and be able to support multiple multiple front ends depending on the requirements that they are bringing.
Yeah, this doesn't change the server at all, Nick. It's just separating it out into a separate repo. We're trying to make the transition essentially unfelt by the users, and then make it so that the front ends don't really feel like they're behaving any different. Like Classic Notebook doesn't feel like it's changing, but it really is. It's being loaded as a server extension.
It's like what we did a couple of years ago when everything was in IPython and we split IPython into Jupyter and other things, right?
Yeah, very similar. Just to make that transition work, there's a lot of, with traitlets, we're kind of struggling with a lot of configuration migration problems and making sure that's smooth for everyone. So that's been probably the worst part about it, is teasing that out. But
yeah, it just seems like with the 3 sunset and some of the growing support around ASCII, there may be a point to becoming less opinionated about what actually serves our stuff, so our stuff becomes more embeddable. I mean, how many times, like, everybody wants to put NB Viewer inside their application, and aside from that being a terrible idea, it's not really convenient to do that because of our specific Tornado toolchain, which is actually not that broadly used.
Right. This possibly opens the door, though, for other server implementations. So you can imagine that what we do is we provide the connection, essentially define the connection points between clients and the server, and then whatever other pieces. Like we're really turning the server into another building block, and then we could, someone could replace that building block, the server building block, with another implementation of server. I don't know. I mean, maybe that makes that possible, and we can transition that direction. But yeah,
ASCII's worth a look because it'd be great to get some of those higher performance event loops.
Yeah.
Curio and all that other stuff. Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Is this what's the timeline for Jupyter Server? Is it going to coincide with a major notebook release, or what's the plan here?
Yeah, I think what we were thinking, at least for the notebook, if the community all agrees, is probably like the next major release, so like a 6.0, I would say. I think the next question will be like, how about Jupyter Lab? I think what we were talking is it's going to be post Jupyter Lab 1.0, but it should be transparent, so it might not need like a kind of like major release or anything like that. It can be like a fixed spec or something, but we're still discussing some of those.
Cool, thanks a lot.
All right, if there's no more questions for Luciano, we'll go ahead and move to our next agenda item, which I think is Nick. Thanks, Luciano.
Oh, thank you.
Nick, you want to present the Qt-based PDF output?
Yeah, is it showing?
Yeah.
All right, I can never tell with these darn Linux computers. Nothing ever works with these enterprise tools. Okay, so we had an issue that we opened up, and I can't get there because it's not letting me get to my other tab, so we'll do that later, but we'll do the demo first. We got this issue 1031 over on Jupyter ME Convert, and basically for a long time, PDF output that you could use to send to a printer, that you could use to, turn in a paper, submit to a journal, has been really hard. Getting a LaTeX stack is not fun. This isn't much better, but it's different and maybe a little bit more predictable. And trying to make your stuff work in that environment is hard. So Qt's been part of the Jupyter story for a long time. We had the Qt console, which has been donated to the Spider community project. And it's not really directly supported much anymore. And there's not that many Qt developers in the science world, it seems. So I don't know. Anyhow, but it used to have this browser based on WebKit, and it was okay, it was kind of good. When I was back in Anaconda, I built this thing that would let you do slides through that. But there's a lot of things it couldn't do right, and in the end, it was always kind of janky. At PyCon, they got through a Qt 5.9 for Conda and CondaForge, which drastically improves the installability of the Qt stack with the rest of the scientific Python stack, which means it makes it easier to install the Jupyter stack. And so what this little fella right here is, I got this notebook over here that's just a trash heap of a bunch of different things. So it's like going to print out all the widgets, and it's going to draw some BQ plot and some bokeh, and it's going to do some SVG matplotlib, and I don't know, whatever. And so it's running, takes a long time. Under the hood, it's spinning up a Jupyter lab, and then it connects the Qt browser directly to it. And then they talk back and forth and wait for things to be done. So it's actually faking dev mode because it gets access before the DOM is finished rendering. So I get direct access to the lab command. Normally you can't do that, but that's fine, in this case. Anyhow, it does a lot of things. Bokeh really doesn't like trying to do path stuff to nodes because SVG is a lot better than Canvas. Yada, 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 yada. Okay, and it finished. So we almost ran out of free space in our memory. Woo. Anyhow, so we got 144 KB PDF out, which is fine. That is a great size. And here's what it looks like inside of the browser PDF viewer. So there's just a bunch of stuff. Not great, but great by the same token. Here's some bokeh. Bokeh loads. Here's some more code. This is what it was complaining about, that it couldn't draw the paths, but I'll take it. And this matplotlib is a widget. I don't know. That's not so great. If you change the SVG backend, it works a little bit better. So anyhow, that's basically what this thing does. This is about the best PDF output I've ever been able to get out of the notebook. And so I'm pretty excited about that. Working on making it kind of clean as I can. So it fires up a process with Jupyter Lab. And then it's got a bunch of static JS and CSS that it forces in at various parts of the life cycle of the application. And then there's actually the Qt thing that actually subclasses all this stuff. So you get like a web channel thing that you can use to talk back and forth directly over PyQt slots. But it's really not that much code. The next place that you can go from this is actually, I think I got a thing here. Can you guys see that?
Yep. Yep.
No?
Yes.
All right. This might not be working right now, but nope. All right, I killed that thing off. I was doing too much dev. Let me see if I can fire it back up. So this is taking it a different direction where, oh, come on. This is taking a different direction where instead the entire web application is served up through there. So the other one is all about making sure that it runs correctly inside of a headless environment. This is where, I'd actually want to do like stuff with it. So this is running inside of the Chromium 5.9, and it looks like, I'm going to imagine that's the screen share is making something go wrong. Yeah. I don't think it likes the screen share. I don't know what's going on. Desktop's hard. So anyhow, and yeah, here's some, it's, I haven't tested it under screen share before. So anyhow, but the basic idea is if I wasn't running screen share, all these things would work inside of here. Crazy stuff like IPy WebRTC just works, which is insane. Geolocation works. And screen sharing will work when, whenever Qt 512 comes out. So this is, yeah, it's very angry at me. I don't know. My window manager is fighting. Oh, maybe it's going to work here. No. Anyhow, testing this is kind of a bear because it doesn't act like a normal Chromium. I thought I had some other notebooks in here. I don't know where my stuff went. Anyhow, so you have to use a really old Chrome driver to talk to it, and then you got to do a bunch of other things to make it work properly, and then you got to make it work headless. But on the end, if we can test it and we can run it, then this presents an option for folks that may not be able to control which browser they're running, but they are allowed to install the Scientific Python suite, which includes Qt. So let's get around some of those things. That's all I got. Oh, there's a repo. Let's see what happens. All right. Whoop, oh. So there's a repo. It's at Deathbed's MD-convert PDF Qt, and there's the issue over here on Jupyter MD-convert, which is the best place to talk right now because a bunch of people that are interested are talking up on there. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Nick. That's awesome stuff. So anybody have any questions or comments for Nick?
Yeah, so is the Qt version, how are you pronouncing that? Jupyter Lab? Yeah, okay, so is this have you tried basically the Electron app? What's the overlap between which people are served by these two things that are kind of similar?
Well, the gentleman earlier on the call was saying that he can't use NPM, so I don't want to bring Electron into this. It's using Qt that's already in an install. If you install Jupyter, if you say conda install Jupyter, you get Qt. And so it's just a lot more accessible from the Python side, which will make it easier to integrate with the rest of our kit that we actually want to support. Because the Node stuff is insane. I can't really.
Do you need Node to use an Electron app? I thought you could ship the Electron app as just a binary.
It uses Node under the hood. Yeah, if you want to do anything, really, you kind of have to.
Got it. Okay.
And to be clear, I also do not have Conda in addition to not having NPM. We are actually building our own Python and everything. We have our own custom importer, and I mean we have some pretty amazing little stack that we are converting from Python 2 to Python 3 right now. So, well,
open source community is not going to support that, but good luck. Don't try to build Qt. It takes like 8 hours.
Yeah, I don't think we're trying to do Qt.
It does a lot of things.
I just had an update here. We just added notebook printing support in Jupyter Lab, and right now we're using NB-convert's HTML output in an iframe and printing that. But if you think that this would be a better thing to print than the HTML, that could be, you could plug that into Jupyter Lab as the default printer, basically, for notebooks.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to work offline, right? I mean, it's got to work headless. It's got to work inside of CI and stuff like that. That's a huge limiter for me. So, if I'm supporting 20 classes and I've got, each class has 20 slide decks that all need to be distributed as PDF, and we change, the copyright date, I can't go through lab for, 2 hours and press buttons. Like, it has to work offline, right? So I don't trust the browser to actually do a good job of it, right? If you can't actually control which browser you have, you don't really know what
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you should use the browser for this. I'm asking the other question. Should we use this in the browser when the user says Command P in the browser? Should we use this? Is there any reason we should use this instead of the browser to render?
Just Qt is heavy, so it's a trade-off, right? Like, I got this browser, it works great, we should use that. It's just another path to getting to archival grade content. But the fact that it's actually Jupyter Lab and not going through HTML with Bootstrap and all those other things fighting means that you only will have to write stuff for the UI that you want to dump out. You don't have to make it also work in the static HTML. You can make it work in the dynamic full environment. You can, you know, twiddle widgets, all that kind of stuff. So right now it just works with Lab, but it would work just fine with Interact or Classic or any other stuff. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Nick. Thanks to everyone who asked questions. Anybody else have any more questions for Nick? Or if not, we'll go ahead and stop the recording and then we'll leave it open for anyone to chat.
Where does Pandoc fall into the landscape of this PDF problem?
I mean, Pandoc is the one that goes through LaTeX. So, I mean, yeah, if you stuff LaTeX well, it'll be fine. But a lot of things don't LaTeX very well.
Right.
So, and then, yeah, once it is in PDF, then, you know, then Pandoc can pick it back up and do other stuff with it too. Yeah, there's enough use cases for, I get exactly what my notebook looks like and not the opinion of the templates and, you know, all the other layers of the stack. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone for, thank you, Nick, for presenting and sharing that. Thanks for fielding the questions and comments. With that, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the video call, or at least the video recording, and then feel free to stay on the call if you like, and we can continue to chat. Thank you everyone who came this month. We're going to have this again next month. You can put it on your calendars. That'll be the last Thursday of June 25th, same time. That's pretty much the trend we're going to do here is the last Thursday of every month. So you can put that on your calendars and continue to look out for it on all our social media and public forums. So thank you again for coming. It was good seeing everybody. With that, I'll stop the recording.